Hi to all those seeking vibrant health. It's Dr. Rachel Northern, and it's my weekly health tips. And tonight the topic is the art of saying no. So I have a lot of people who are unhealthy because they've overcommitted themselves to either activities, other things, demands that others have put on them, or just saying no themselves to bad food choices. But mostly we're going to talk about the commitments today. Because if you overcommit yourself, that can lead to exhaustion, resentment, even depression, some therapists say. And so we're going to talk about how you need to honor your needs and yourself and put up healthy boundaries. That's part of health as well. And I got some tips I wrote down. So here's a couple of tips on how to know. If somebody asks you to do something, do a gut check and see if it's something you really want to do. If you're usually for me, I get an icky feeling, or I'm like, ugh, if I really want to do this, I can my body kind of tells me, my subconscious gives me a little telltale signs. I kind of feel it in my gut if it's not really. So I've learned to say no to those things when I listen to my body. I usually always make sure I stop first, think about it. If they're going to rush me and say they need to know answer right then and there, then it's an absolute no right away, because I'm not going to be pressured into doing something and on their timeline. That's not my circuit, not my circus, not my monkeys. I've used that line a lot of their crisis is not always my crisis, and don't get sucked into other people's crisis, because that's not necessarily your responsibility. And that's why people get exhausted, resentful, and depressed, because they got sucked into other people's drama and it wasn't about them. And so another thing, pause, take a deep breath, gut check. The second thing is, let me see my notes here, take someone else's opinion. Maybe you're on the fence about it. Say, can I get back to you next week? And say if they can't get back to you, and say, you know what, I don't have time for that right now. I can't commit to that right now. And you don't need to give elaborate excuses. You don't need to be because XYZ. You can just say, nope, I'm unavailable for that at that time, or whatever. But you don't need to give an elaborate excuse. You can honor yourself. You have the right to honor yourself and set those healthy boundaries for yourself. And if you guys have anything in your life you can think of right now that you need to kind of back off, you've overcommitted to, that's fine to kind of call those off and start getting those out of your life. At one point in time, I was committed to, I counted up to 7 different social groups. I was the president of 2 or 3 of them. I also had, elementary school kids in the home. And I had one day I was supposed to be in 3 different places at the same time. And I literally that day shut down. I was my house was a wreck. I totally had a deer in the headlights, just literally freaked out. And I realized I had overcommitted myself. So I slowly started backing out of those organizations. They were all great things. They were all, civil organizations, some commitments with my church that I had made, and it was just not healthy. And it just brought me down. So I backed everything out, and then when I started re-engaging in things, I said, what are things that I'm best at and that give me joy and I enjoy, that I don't resent, and made sure that I didn't overcommit to too many things. Because what happens was I was doing all these things and I wasn't doing them very well, and I like to do things very well when I do them. And so I was just doing it not to the level I would like to do them. And so then that caused self resentment in myself. I wasn't, bad self-esteem. I wasn't doing it as good as I could. And so when I kind of backed out of those things and then started engaging in things that I really did like to do, it would just rose my self-esteem in those things, brought me out. It felt like a veil was lifted, and my family was happier. I was happier. All around, the health of everything was better. So if you have something you need to, back out of, do it now. If you want to comment and say I'm an overcommitter and I want to start saying no, make a comment below and say, I'm going to start now, trying to overcommit. And if you are someone that's really good at it, I want to give a shout out for that too and say, good job. So make some comments, and I look forward to talking to you next week.